Beats like this. This is Friday night. Hangout. Creating our stories. Beats like this. Exploring limitless opportunities. Illuminate our path. Amplify our impact. Oh, it's Friday night hangout. Ooh, it's Friday night hangout.
Hi. Hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Friday Night Hangout. And I'm your host, Joy Onyesoh. I'm really excited to have you join us tonight. As always, it's a pleasure to just welcome you to Friday Night Hangout. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome in. This is that place where we have conversations on topical issues and we network, we have fun. Of course, it's always a very reflective, hands-on, insightful session. So just stay tuned, do not go away. Tonight we have a very interesting guest, and I'm super excited really to have a male advocate. Last week we hosted Barrister Berry Fenn. We're talking about the reserved seats for women, what you need to know. This is the ongoing conversation right now. There are a number of issues really on the hot seats in Nigeria currently. The reserved seat for women is one of them. We had the Senate public hearing last week, and then I think next week we'll be having that of the House of Rep. So what do you need to know? How does it concern you? This is not that time. It's not my business, it's their business. No, this is your business, it's my business. It impacts on our life. Please join me to welcome a male advocate, a seasoned one, Austin Aiwe, as he joins us right here in the studio. Hey, welcome, Austin. So nice to have you join us. I will just do a brief intro.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, Austin is our special guest for tonight. He's a seasoned democracy advocate, regional advocacy lead at Wademos, and ECOWAS liaison officer. He has years of experience in international development, electoral integrity, and governance, including roles at the International Republican Institute, IRI, and studies at NYU. Austin brings a global lens to local challenges. And when you hear him, talk tonight, you understand why he's our guest for tonight. I've had, the opportunity of working with Austin on different fronts. We've worked in rooms, we've worked in the field, and I tell you, this is a professional that's going to be talking to you. And what gladdens my heart the most is that we're talking about reserved seats for women, and we have a champion, a male advocate, a he for she. Please join me in welcoming Austin Aiwe. Hey! Welcome, Austin. Welcome. So, not to waste much time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. We'll just delve right into the conversation, because we're talking about reserved seats, the reserved seat bill for women. Now, last week we had Barrister Barrett talk to us about what the bill really is all about. Now, I want you to come from the perspective of Nigeria's democracy. What does this reserved seat for women, what does it really imply? What is, the impact in Nigeria's democracy? We're talking about elections in 2027. Already the politics is being heated up, conversations are happening, coalitions are being formed. What is the importance of this reserved seats for women in Nigeria's democracy?
Sorry.
Okay, I think we have some network issues. I'm sure he'll be with us shortly. You know how we can be. Okay, great.
Yes. Can you hear? Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, apologies. It's about raining in my area, so thank you. So I'm battling with two internet because I'm trying to manage them, so I stay on course. So first is that, what is democracy? Understanding what democracy means will enable us answer the question you just posed. We are told, even though there are manner of definition of democracy, that liberal democracy and etc. But let me stay with the popular definition, that is the government of the people for the people and by the people. What that means is that democracy brings everybody to the table, particularly when decision is to be made. And those who are able to structure the way democracy or democratic architecture works is that there's representation. In this case, representation of all everybody within the circle. For instance, it is democratic to ensure that those who are historically marginalized are intentionally brought to the table. And this is important for democratic consolidation, democratic enhancement, and democratic strengthening. But in our context in Nigeria, let me, since we're talking about exercise in Nigeria, in our context is that you see generally a certain gender does dominate the political affair, and it is not intentional, it is historical. Not until recently, maybe around maybe in the 70s, that the first time a woman voted or women began to vote in our election. Before, in the previous constitution, Maferson and all of those constitution, previous constitution, women could not vote. Even men at some point could not vote. That is not democracy. In a democracy, everyone has the opportunity to have his or her voice on the table. But in this case, as we progress, maybe we'll be to look at the very essence of what is special seats, because I've seen a lot of misinformation that flow around this special seat. But again, just to answer your question, democracy brings people together, and it is all about representation. In a situation where more than half or about half, depending on the statistics you are looking at, about half of the population of the community are not part of those who make decisions for that community.
Hmm.
That is not democracy.
Hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love the way you've taken us back in time so we can begin to understand why representation matters. So we can't talk about democracy without talking about representation. So the reserved seat for women is actually a push towards representation so that we can have both men and women on the seat. And somebody might ask, so why all the fuss about it? Why are we making so much noise? Why do we need to have women on the seat, men on the seat, men at the table as well? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Why is it important to have all the voices on the table, especially when we're talking about growth, we're talking about representation? Why is this even important? Why should it be a conversation we should be having?
I've had a lot of people ask this same question. Why? The why is for the development of this country. I've had people talk about why can't women struggle? And I agree with them. But I also ask them, why is it that when we try to talk about ethnic inclusion or federalism as it were, why did we have to put a special section in the Constitution? I think it's section 14 that talks about the Federal Character Commission. Why is it that everybody is not struggling for the power? Why is it that for the Federal Executive Council, you must have representation per state? Why are we doing that? It is for inclusion. It is that certain individuals are not excluded. So why are we asking the question that someone take example in educational system, so to say, and you see in the unity schools, people argue, why can't we just allow the system to run? Why is it that in some states 44 or 50 or 60 can be admitted into the unity school, whereas in other states 150 score candidates, I mean, I'm talking about scores that a candidate gets in an entrance examination. In certain states of Nigeria, to get into the unity school, a student will just need about 50 marks. But in another state, if you have 150, you can't be admitted because of the why. In an attempt to therefore ensure inclusion, you have to lower the grade for certain category of individuals and higher the grade for certain category of individuals. Because we want this all of us to sit on the table. So the whole idea of federalism is to ensure that everyone, whether you are high or low, whether you are historically marginalized or otherwise, you have brought to the table. And ethnicity in Nigeria has been well managed in a way that it is almost mandatory. That you see, I'll give you a quick example. When this president came on board and he started sending out his appointment, people started shouting, why is everybody coming from one particular side of the country? Why not the other part? Because of federalism. In the same case, so why do we have all the men in positions? Why? That's the question of the why. So you go to the National Assembly, 4 women, 4 are members of the Senate, and you're asking me why? Why? So why don't we increase that number? Because what affects a woman directly, there is no way. Austin Agbe, no matter how gender sensitive I am, I can never feel it. There are matters of importance that the voice of the woman need to be heard. Of course, even though we're not talking about the voices of persons with disability at this time or youth, but like we're focusing on just women. When we talk about infant mortality, when we talk about anything that has to do with empathy, bringing empathy to policy formulation, you need women to speak out from their hearts, not political engagement, but heart speaking. And I've seen this work elsewhere. I was privileged to be in Sierra Leone when the GWI was passed and how it transformed that country. I was privileged to see transformation in Rwanda because of inclusion. And privilegedly, during COVID-19, countries led by women actually adapt more. The empathy was more. The resource allocation to issues that had to do with COVID and the economic crash that happened aftermath, countries led by women had increased resilience. When you check poverty, let's stay with poverty. Nigeria, arguably, we are told from statistics, even though I didn't create those statistics, that we have even beaten India in terms of the poverty headquarter of the global community. If you need to know those who build resilience, they are women. If you empower a woman, you empower a community. And inequality and democratic backsliding are almost correlated. Inequality and poverty are almost correlated. Where there are unequal systems, where only a particular gender tends to be the one that makes all the decisions. I repeat, all the decisions. When I use the word all the decisions, just still again with the Senate position, there are 109 senators. Of these numbers, 4, I repeat, what voice does 4 individuals make where you have 105 other voices? So when you talk about gendered budgeting and a woman tries to bring issues of women, children, and youth to the table, the 105 voices are likely. I'm not saying they will, because there are men who are very gender sensitive and they are also in the Senate. But beyond that, like I said, no matter how gender sensitive you are, there are certain representation you will never know what it means to use the monthly flow period. You will never know the economic importance of it, or you will never know what it means to carry pregnancy. You will never know what it means to breastfeed a child.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've really put the issues right on the table. You've really put the issues right on the table because we're talking about lived experiences. We have difference in our lived experience. As a woman, your lived experience is different from that of the man. And so we need both the perspective of the man and the woman to make holistic decisions that will push the country forward. So these are very, very critical points Austin has put on the table. So if you ask yourself, oh, why should I? You should be bothered because the decisions made, all these decisions made at the political level, the policies made at this level translate into our everyday experience. So for instance, when we talk about taxation, it is the decision the government empowerment makes on taxation that you feel. When we talk about health, access to healthcare, it is the budgeting that is done for this that will determine what percentage goes into maybe budgeting for maternal health and all of that. So you need to take an interest in this. We need to have more women seated at the table who can speak from my experience to say, no, if as a woman I'm pregnant and I go to hospital, this is the first thing I want to get. This is what I want to get during antenatal. And then they bring all this perspective that will shape the way the policies are being made or the laws are being enacted. So it's very important that we have men and women. Now, Austin, looking at this conversation, let's go with the assumption that, we sail with this, because I'm so optimistic that this time around, we are going to sail through with this. How then are we going to be able to move from policy to action?
So at this point, we already have a policy. We have a national gender policy that talked about 35% affirmative action. But for some of us who are policy maker, advocate, of course, we love that policy. But as I speak now, I think that it would have been better not to even have that policy, because it's not been realistic, it's not been achievable. Arguably, it's not even be realistic, so to say. 2 years ago, I think 2022, some women group, including civil society organization, went to court during the administration of Muhammadu Buhari to challenge the government inaction in the implementation of the gender policy. And of course, I think it's section 42 of the Constitution that talks about equality, so to say. And then all manner of conversation entered, and the truth is that the High Court of the FCT made a judgment. In fact, passed a judgment that the government was wrong in not implementing its own policy. And here you are with the challenge of policy, and that's also the challenge of the Constitution. I think chapter 2 or so, is chapter 2 or chapter 4, that they say is not justiciable, talking about all of those rights, right to this, right to that. And well, it's good that they are in the Constitution, but they are not justiciable. The same way, policies are really not justiciable until it become a law. And that is why ANEC policy, for instance, ANEC policies go to court, and eventually the judiciary nullify some of those policies because they say that they are mere advisory. They are mere legislative document or support to the law. They are not a law. So, but beyond the law, beyond policy, is to move to the law, and that is why altering the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to make specific provision that, for instance, where you have the nomination for Senate, there should be special seats for at least one woman per state. This is intentional. Once that happens, then we then move, because I was somewhere in West Africa country where we're talking about numbers, and one of the countries said let me mention directly. Senegal has met the threshold of numbers. So Nigeria is far behind countries like Senegal, Ghana, Sierra Leone, just passing the law. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, they become more gendered in a way that policies and programs look through the lens of the impact of men and women. And that is what matters. Like you were saying, talking about healthcare and all of that. And I like the point you made about tax. The burden of taxation is usually highest on women, particularly because women dominate the informal sector. Women in informal economy, they grow this country, whereas they don't contribute, are using quotes. They are unable to match their contribution to the GDP of this country. We tend to look at services. We are not looking at services provided at home. Most people think that a full-time housewife does not work. A full-time housewife is working, and we don't quantify our contribution. So that's another conversation. But going to just summarizing your question, is that at this time, where we need to move from policy to action, I repeat, is to move gradually from what we have as 35% to the alteration of the Constitution. Then, ahead of the 2027 election, we will then come out and vote. As Ebere has already stated how the structure will work, it's simple. One per state, and this position will be voted by all, but that position will only be contested. So that means that in the Senate, of the 109 now, you have an additional 37. Whether you like it or not, the number may not be up to 35%, assuming that all 109 are men. Then you then have 37 women. That number is still not enough, but at least you are going to have at least a woman in each of the committees of the Senate. You are going to have a woman talking about the House of Reps too. You are going to have a woman because that's also one per state for the House of Reps. What that means is that you are going to have at least one woman in each of the Senate committee, at least in each of the Senate committee, at least in each of the House of Representative committee, so that they bring in the woman's lens. If you like, don't call it the gender lens, just call it the woman's lens.
Thank you so much, Austin, for giving us a very vivid, visualization of how this will look like in very practical terms. We need to have a measure to close the gap. It's not, if we continue the same way, we keep getting the same results, we'll keep having less women. Even with the last elections, we had fewer women, who were elected, just like Austin pointed out, just 4 women in the Senate. That's really very poor. Now, we have a lot of narratives around this reserved seat, women political participation, women representation, and there's a whole lot of conversation going on in this area. How can we counter the disinformation that threatens reforms, right? Especially one such as, because this is huge, right? How do we go about countering, the disinformation that is out there?
Thank you. I mean, it's clear that every reform will always have an alternative view, which is okay. I mean, that's why democracy exists. So first is that we need to be able to understand the dynamics. And interestingly, I will ask people before you even try to condemn, can we provide an argument, an alternate argument? For instance, I'll give you a quick one. The House of Representatives Speaker came up with a proposed bill to make election compulsory in Nigeria. I said no, and I provided my evidence that suggests no. And my evidence, I think, was strong enough, and most other people supported that, maybe align with my argument, or I align with their argument. And the speaker saw that
Beautiful, thank you. I think we have network fluctuations with Mr. Austin. I'm hoping we'll be able to have him join us soon. And while we're waiting for Austin to come on board and join us, we're going to take a very quick break. Do not go anywhere. The conversation is just getting more interesting. We're also going to talk about when he's going to land this conversation, and then we move into how can men really support this movement? How can we have men advocating for women's increased representation? So don't go anywhere. Just stay right here while we take this quick ad.
Are you feeling stuck in your business, professional or personal life? Or are you struggling to find purpose and direction? Imagine having a clear sense of direction, achieving your goals, and living a fulfilling life. Joy Onyesoh Coaching Consult is here to help you. We will work with you to identify your strengths, overcome obstacles, and develop a personalized plan to achieve your dreams. With our coaching and consulting services, you will gain clarity, confidence, and the tools you need to succeed. Do not let fear, lack of clarity, or doubt hold you back any longer. Take the first step towards achieving your goals and living your best life. Contact Joy Onyesoh Coaching Consult today. Joy Onyesoh Coaching Consult, empowering you to reach your full potential. Call, SMS, or WhatsApp +234 704 229 1171. Or you can visit our website www.joyonyesohcoachingconsult.com.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We're having a very interesting conversation. We just took a little break and we're back right now. Now we still have a vibrant, energetic Mr. Austin. Before we went on the break, he was talking about how we can counter disinformation related to reforms. And he was talking about the importance of having an alternative, approach. So I would leave it to him for him to ground that conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Oscar.
All right. Thank you very much. Apologies. So I was. Hello. Is the sound?
Okay,
Hello.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead. We had a technical issue.
Can
Go
I
right
can I
ahead.
go on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. I hope it's not. I mean, it
No,
was a
no, no.
glitch.
You know how
All right.
technology
So
works
you see,
sometimes.
the truth of the matter is, okay. So the thing is that the aim of those who are engaged in misinformation and disinformation narrative about reforms, specifically the result seat B, is intended to destroy it. That there is no need for it. And I've answered technically that if you say there is no need for this, at this time we need to go back to the conversation of chapter 14 of the Federal Character Commission of this country. We need to take it out. The Federal Character Commission is an affirmative action principle that is intended to bridge the gap. So, what the result CB provide is an affirmative action principle also intended to bridge the gap. When you want to respond, and I want to advise for those actors who support the bill, you don't have to engage in some fight because I've seen that
Mm,
happen.
yes.
There's no need for that. Just provide the necessary education. Provide the necessary education. What it matters. It means that you have to also have in depth of what it is. For instance, what does it really mean for the
Mm,
economy? And I've had people talk about an increase. It will increase the budget. It will increase the budget. But can we also look at the cost of the exclusion? The cost of exclusion,
exactly.
if we have to conduct research on it, it may be more than 20% of the total budget. Because
Exactly.
if you check what violence against women does to our national life, people are not
Exactly.
talking about it. You
Yes.
don't know what it means. The number of women who are unable to engage in workforce properly because they face some stuff at home. Nobody talk about it because it's not important. But when it's an ethnic issue, it becomes important. Can we then replace gender with ethnicity so that the woman and the man in this country, particularly because I mean I'm saying the woman and the man because I know in the population of women you have person with disability and you also have the youth. The same thing in the population
Yes.
of the men you also have person with disability. So let me stay with the two that is known because it's male and female that is known. We don't live elsewhere. So having said that, is that for these two people, male and female, coming together to discuss issues for the betterment of our country, realizing that it is more important to
Mm,
have a feeling of the general
mm,
population. And I have argued
mm.
before now that when Mr. President took office on May the 29th, 2023, and he made a policy statement about the removal of fuel subsidy, and of course the
Mm,
eventual floating of the naira. I argue that if it was a
mm,
woman, she will never do that. The woman will then begin to look at the importance of removing, weighing the options, and that's what brings the
mm,
woman to the table. And people say,
mm.
former president of Nigeria say, your place is in the kitchen. If the kitchen is not okay, how will the man be okay outside? So even the kitchen role, playing the kitchen role in the governance space is important. Bring the
Mm,
woman to the table to to bring the other side that we don't know as men. There are many sides that men don't know. Too many sides. I know some of us feel we have empathy. Yes, we have energy, but most people say that women don't have energy. And I've argued, what is the definition of energy? Some say women don't have strength. That leading Nigeria will be a colossal damage. And about what is strength? Do you know what is strength? That for 9 months to hold a baby in your stomach, that is strength. To become full-time housewife, that is strength. I'm not too sure, not to undermine men, Men that are hearing me, listening to me now, will agree that if you are to talk about strength, now women actually have more strength than men. But most of the time we hide under physical strength because of our hormones. But we don't talk about the hormones of the strength of the woman. So let's not use strength in governance. In any case, you don't need physical energy to have to run affairs of country. What you need is intellect. What you need is empathy. What you need is wisdom, knowledge. Women
And all
have the
these do
same
not have
capacity
gender.
in terms of knowledge.
Exactly.
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 And
It
it
is
has no
not
gender.
gendered.
Exactly. Leadership has no gender. So as long as you have the qualities and the skills, you can be a leader. So we need to learn this that yes, we have differences in terms of biological differences, but this should in no way determine who is a better leader than the others. We want to look more at capacities that we could bring to the table, because the first thing we need to know about leadership that no one is born a leader. So leadership is a learned skill set. It's something you learn. And because you have to learn it, both male and female can learn how to do it, right? But then you bring in your uniqueness, being a woman or being a man, your uniqueness in terms of your lived experiences into that leadership position, and it makes all the difference. So we're saying that for us to grow, for us to ensure that there's inclusion, for us to make sure that, everyone gets to bring their own quota to the table, we need to make sure that we support this kind of reforms, especially the reserve seat for women. And on a final note, as we plan to wrap up because we're over time, final word, Austin. Now, how can men support this movement?
I- any man that know the importance of a woman will surely support it. However, I'm not saying only those men. The thing is for men to understand. We have had we've had first, second, third, and the fourth republic, and in each of those republic, representation of women is largely low. Can we not begin to think the other way? And that's what the special seat offers. But the special seat is saying that we then check this inclusion for the next 16 years. By the time it's 16 years, we'll review and check whether we have made progress. If we didn't make progress, well, we can come back. Maybe if we didn't make progress, I will come back and apologize. To say I didn't, well, but I am telling you, I already see from where I sit because of my global experience. I've seen this happen elsewhere. I've given examples of how Rwanda transformed. How right now, what's happening in Senegal is transforming. It was women group who led the stop to Macky Sall's attempt to elongate his tenure, along with young people. Look at what's about to happen now in Syria. No, just in 2 years, the country is gradually moving up, proposing gendered policies, gendered intervention. Now there's increase in the output of women who contribute particularly at the informal sector. Some of those things are very vital. I know Nigeria is a very large country, and we have at our disposal good oil resources that, in fact, we don't want to quantify the resources that get contributed from the informal economy, which is known as the System D. And because of that, you don't see the relevance of women contributing to our national development. So I'm saying that let's do this 16 years thing and see that if it, but I'm telling you specifically, by the next 4 years, we'll begin to reap certain growth rates in a way that matter. I'm sure that by the time any administration come up with any policy that is anti-people, the first to speak about it will be women. Look at what happened in the assembly of the Gambia. A woman stood up against the ill treatment of the people. But some men, I mean, there's a man who did the same thing in Ghana anyway. But I'm not saying that our women here don't, but I'm actually saying when the number is low, the capacity gets weakened because this is advocacy and lobbying. You need to even lobby your members. So if the 37 of the women lobby, you could pass gender sensitive policies and bills and then ensure gender budgeting for our Nigerian state.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Austin. It's been such a huge privilege having you here. It's been an honor just having you really unpack the conversation, especially from a male perspective. So please, If you're on the show, please share. Please, if you have male, brothers, fathers, husbands who do not understand the conversation and who is always saying, in Igbo land, we say, meaning these women have come again. Then we need to, play this for them to watch and we can have conversation. Like I told us last week, we're going to have, the next couple of weeks dedicated to having these conversations from different perspectives. From the young people perspective, young men, young women, from persons living with disability. So we are committed to bringing different sides of the conversation to the table so that you can actually understand the importance of this. It's not just for women alone. This bill, if passed, is one that is going to benefit the country as a whole. So thank you so much, everyone. And remember, this is Friday Night Hangout. Make out time to enjoy yourself, relax. And don't forget to join us next week, Friday. We're committed to bringing you another interesting guest, just like we've had us. Also, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on board. And we hope to bring you back into the studio next time. So from every one of us, from my team and I, we say thank you, we love you, and we'll see you next week, Friday. Bye for now.
Are you feeling stuck in your business, professional or personal life? Or are you struggling to find purpose and direction? Imagine having a clear sense of direction, achieving your goals, and living a fulfilling life. Joy Onyesoh Coaching Consult is here to help you. We will work with you to identify your strengths, overcome obstacles, and develop a personalized plan to achieve your dreams. With our coaching and consulting services, you will gain clarity, confidence, and the tools you need to succeed. Do not let fear, lack of clarity, or doubt hold you back any longer. Take the first step towards achieving your goals and living your best life. Contact Joy Onyesoh Coaching Consult today. Joy Onyesoh Coaching Consult, empowering you to reach your full potential. Call, SMS, or WhatsApp +234 704 229 1171, or you can visit our website www.joyonyesohcoachingconsult.com.